What's your understanding between the correlation of science and spirituality and how eventually they'll merge together?
Oh man, they're totally interconnected in every way. I mean, like every day now, people are sending me new scientific discoveries that just further prove it, basically. They're like, you know, one day it's like, well, quantum physics discovers that everything is geometric. Wonderful. You know, then they'll say that, then there was another one that Stephen Hawking says that the entire universe is a hologram. Another one. And the more that these come out, the more it's just furthering to tie the knot. And I think the one thing that is going to be the thing that actually ties it together is consciousness, is what consciousness really is and what effect it has and how it is the creator of the entire reality that we call the universe, this infinite vibration, this playground ultimately. So I think in like ancient times, like you know, Atlantis and Lemuria, I mean this was just not this wasn't this up for discussion thing. They just understood that they were one with God, as in they are God, a fractal of God, and that, you know, it wasn't this, you know, let's look at the science and let's look at the religion and let's try and, you know, they weren't anything separate. And over time they became separate, and after this fall of Atlantis, however it happened, or the fall in consciousness, because, you know, there was an event of sorts where we did fall and came to this dense reality that we are now. We lost our connection to all of it, and when that happened, we kind of began to create, you know, barriers. We put up walls between ourselves. We said, these are my beliefs, you know, because we didn't know, we couldn't know. We were at such a dense level of understanding that everything was just incomprehensible to us. So, I mean, over time, you know, we developed these kind of religions and dogmatic stories and these you know, fairy tales ultimately that kind of tried to explain all of these spiritual topics, and we did a terrible job because, I mean, look where we are now. But I think what's happening is that when you push past the religion and you push past, you know, all of these, and you kind of go to the ancient roots and look at what they're actually saying, like if you go to, you know, ancient Sanskrit writings and Hinduism, like you really, everything that they say matches up entirely with what quantum physics and modern, you know, all these physicists of today are just slowly figuring out. Like, you know, everything is just a vibration and a hologram for consciousness, and everything is a reflection of consciousness. And I mean, I think the further we go, the more we're gonna find out about what it all really means, you know, in the grand scheme of things.
So what's your theory on the importance of meditation?
You know, meditation is like an ancient art that goes back forever. It's like the thing to do if you want to find peace and silence within yourself. And it's actually really interesting if you think about everything, you know, in a very universal form, which is the torus, you know, the torsion field. We all have, you know, it's just in the shape of an apple and a hurricane and a cyclone and all of this, and you have to think about the human body in the same way. If you think about these energy fields that we have around ourselves, you know, in the core of that's kind of the point of unity, basically. They're holding the weight of the world on their shoulders, and it really just brings everyone down ultimately. And through meditation, you can kind of learn to shift perspective and find peace within yourself. Because when you have peace within yourself, you know, these exterior problems, they don't exist. They just don't, because you're calm inside, and then you perceive differently. So, you know, all of this weight on your shoulders, you can learn to just let it go and just drop it, and you don't even have to worry about it, and it becomes a non-issue. I think the important thing to know with meditation is that it's not like you do meditation and then everything works. You know, it's not like this magical fail-safe, you know, you do it and then you're free. It's something you have to consciously do. You have to consciously explore. So if you're meditating, you really have to go deep within yourself, and you have to find that oneness in yourself and do it yourself, because ultimately you're exploring a deeper part of you that you know, most people don't really have a connection to these days. And I think it's important to find that connection, especially in the time that we're in, because things are changing very rapidly, and I mean, in the next year, you know, all of this could look completely different. You know, you can't say anything for sure, but there's a lot going on right now, because even if there's, you know, insane changes going on, if if you're at peace with yourself, then everything will go smoother, because ultimately you are the one guiding yourself through the changes.
What's your value on relationships with friends or even intimate relationships?
Well, that's an interesting topic, and a lot of people have asked me about relationships and whatnot too. And I think ultimately, you can and should be really close with anyone you feel really close to, or anyone you feel comfortable with. So if you meet someone, and within the first 2 hours of spending time with them, you already, and you both feel this intense spiritual or mental or emotional connection between them, then why not open up, as long as it's like a comfortable thing. Go with the flow, and you'll know, basically. But relationships on an intimate level are even more interesting, I think, because I've actually adopted a philosophy which I'm calling right now a Pleiadian relationship. And the Pleiadians are a race of entities, or a race of beings that are living in the Pleiades, basically, through Taurus, or through the constellation of Taurus, or somewhere behind there. But basically, at one point, I was reading like a channeling from them, and they said that in a Pleiadian relationship, they are functioning at a level where, they'll be intense, personal, close. They'll be like a married couple. But then if one of the couple walks in the door one day and says, this has been a fantastic relationship, and I think it's time for me to travel to the other side of the planet and do something else now, the other would have a complete understanding on every level and be like, I totally understand, it's been a wonderful time with you, and then they just part ways. And I think that's kind of important, because if you find someone that you connect with, ultimately what you're doing is you're spiraling around them in a very close and personal way, and you're growing with them. But if one of them decides that it's time for them to move on, then they do that, and they just move on, and then this one has to understand, the other partner has to understand that this is the time to move on. And instead of, once again, what most people do is, they carry that burden on their shoulders, and they go like, it's so hard, and it's just the worst, and it's the worst feeling to be left and alone. But it's just about shifting perspective and seeing it in a way that's like, no, this is something new. This, it's time to move on myself. There's an entire universe of possibilities. What do I want to do now? And you just continue moving on, and you continue spiraling on your own instead of stopping your own growth. So I think with family and with friends and lovers and everything, I think it's important just to know that, be happy with yourself, because you never know if one of your most closest and personal friends is going to go and do something, something that you disagree with, or something that'll, bring you two apart, or separate you two. But you just have to understand that, everyone is on their own very personal path, and even if you travel together for a while, we are infinite beings, so there's no reason that we need to stay together for infinity. We have to be able to and ready to let go at any point. But I think letting go is probably also the key ingredient there, is because when you can just let go, you can go, that was an awesome relationship, and then just move on.